electronically. So anyways, matrix.netrus.net, get into our MLS. I have that on my phone, so I would probably just do this on my phone instead of logging in. I use the same website. There is an app called MLS Touch. You can download that, but I use actual website, save it as a home screen on my iPhone. So matrix.netrus.net. And once you log in, you'll click on Netrus Matrix. And that's when we should have our home screen that it's called a dashboard. And it's been kind of cleaned up. If you had me do it for you, then you probably never saw what it looked like when you got it from the MLS as a default. And there's like a million boxes here. So I just kind of made the boxes the one that we use the most. You can always edit it. Lola does, and a number of other agents add some other stuff. But the first thing we need to know is that if you ever call me and I don't know where you're at, I'm going to tell you to go back to your dashboard. And that's going to be the first tab at the very top. It says My Matrix. And if you hover over it, you hit Dashboard, and that will always take you back to where I know where we're starting from scratch. So you should have on the left one home visitors, in the middle a search square, and on the right are listings. I'm going to hover right next to My Matrix at the top. I'm going to hover over search and go residential detailed. And once I go residential detailed, I should be in our MLS. And in the top left corner, you should have only active marked. And in the scenario, I said that he wants a condo. So if you look underneath the active section, under status, it says subdivision and property subtype. I'm going to physically check mark condominium and hit the control button and also hit townhome. So I have two of them highlighted dark, condos and townhomes. I'm going to go to price in the right corner. And I said under 5 million. So I'm going to go 0 dash, and it'll look like 5,000. The reason it looks like 5,000 is because I have 3 zeros already check marked on the right. So 0 dash 5,000 is really 0 dash 5 million. Then in the middle, I said that I wanted it 1 mile. So I'm going to put a 1, or the drop down, I can pick one. You don't have to pick the miles in the drop down. You can put your own miles in there. So if you wanted to put 0.75, you can do that. You can do 1 mile. And then I'm just going to type in slowly American Airlines. And it's the AAC, American Airlines Convention, isn't it? Or Center? Oh, Center. Okay, I'll wait for a second, and you'll see that if you typed in American Airlines Center, it gives you an address of 2500 Victory Avenue. I'm going to select it, and you'll see that other than that, that's all the criteria that I had. So I had, he wanted something under 5 million, a condo 1 mile from American Airlines Arena. That's called American Airlines Center. And that was it. So there's 46 matches. If I did just condos and took out the townhome, there's 45. So I said that you can basically pick your own. But at this time, we're acting like he called you. So you took the call, you got his phone number, you confirmed he text, and you got his email, and you hooked him up with a lender. You didn't need to hook him up with a lender, but sometimes even when they go cash, you can get them to talk to a lender to see if they're strokers. Because if somebody gets pre-approved, they got to show they have funds of 5 million. Or you're going to have to get them to send you a proof of funds letter that shows 5 million in an account. Because when you write the offer, you've got to send it with the offer. We all know Dave Wilson. He showed about 6 months ago somebody a $5 million house, and they were just strokers. They just had nothing better to do. He came to find out that when the lady was a little girl, she lived in the house. And the whole reason that she had him show it is she wanted to see her bedroom from when she was little. She couldn't afford a bag of groceries. So it was kind of sad because Dave was like, this is going to be a life changer. And I told him right when he called me, I go, I hope that she's not a flake. And he's like, no, she's for real. And I was like, okay. The agent let him bring an offer without a proof of funds letter, which means that the listing agent presented it to the seller. And then 4 days later, they found out that she had no money. And that's why you would never do that as a seller agent. Okay, so we have 46, 45, and this is where I would argue we're going to send all these to him. And so I'm going to go results, save, new auto email. And you'll see that I do that here at the bottom. I'm going to hit results. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to hit new auto email. That takes us to the page where if we scroll to the bottom before we do anything, if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see the save button. If you hit the save button, you just emailed it, but everything yellow has to be filled in. So at the very top, if I already have been working with this guy, he'll be in my drop down because he'll be a pre-existing client. If he's not in my drop down, I need to create him as a new client. So I'm going to go ahead and type in his name. It's Philip with 2 L's and 2 P's. And that would be important not to misspell his name. Okay, and then I'm going to make up a generic email. So I have his first name, last name, and what his real email would be if he was a real client. I'm going to hit save, and there he is. And then here, I'm just going to go condos a mile from the AAC. That's what the nickname is for the abbreviation. I'm going to scroll to the very bottom. If I hit save, I just emailed it to him. But we've learned here that what we want to do is make it to where after I send the initial 45 properties, that if a new listing hits, he'll get it immediately. So we hit ASAP, and then we hit save, and you just emailed it to him. So let's say that he gets the properties, and I'm going to go ahead and just copy one of these MLS numbers before I go forward. So I'll have it. Now, some people wonder, like, when you do this, like we had that long list, and now I'm looking at one individual. Sometimes you want to know, how do I get back real quick to that single line? If you go to the very top, you'll see it says display agent full. If you click on that and go single line, you'll get right back to all of them. Okay. And so let's just, let's look at the first one, because what would effectively happen is you're going to send these properties. He's going to look at them, and then he's going to decide he wants to write to look at a few. And let's say that after a couple of days, he texts you back and he goes, hey, I really like the one at 509 Elm. Or he texts you the MLS number. It's going to be one of those two things. He's going to text you 509 Elm, or he's going to text you the MLS number. And so basically you would be out of the MLS at this point, and that means you got to log back in, and this will be your screen. There's 2 ways to quickly find it. One is you paste the MLS number right here. And when you paste it, it adds a couple spaces in front. You have to delete those spaces. You hit return, and it'll pull it up just like that. The second way would be if he sent you the address. And again, 9 Elm. And the only problem would be if there was multiple properties at 509 Elm, and you can see there are. So you would need to know exactly which unit it was. So probably the MLS number would be the best bet. And you just say, hey, can you text me the MLS number? And he texts it to you, and you put it right here. You hit enter. And I always have told you to click on the MLS number. Once you click on that, that's the most information that you can glean from a listing. And I like to print it because I'm a visual person. So even though I'm going to have it on my phone, I could take a picture of it on my phone. I could email this to me. I like to print it and have it in my car. So when I show him, I have all the answers for any questions that he asks. So the first thing to know is at the very top, you have the address, and underneath it, you have some tabs: listing, tax, photos, history. If I go to the tax row, it's going to tell me the seller's name. And you can see that's Jacqueline Hahn. Okay. You can see that Jacqueline's with a C, whereas our Jacqueline's without the C. So it's good to be able to know the spelling is correct when you write the offer up. Because again, this is your first impression with the listing agent. So I'd probably print this also. So I'd have the agent full report and the tax roll. All I do is go back to listing, and I'm back here, and right below these tabs, you see these little icons. The first icon's a clock. If I click on it, it's going to tell me the history of this property back to 2003. So I'll be able to see whenever it was active. I'll see if it was ever terminated and listed with a new brokerage. I'll see cumulative days on market. So just to give you an idea, if you look at the current listing, here it is at the top. The way to read it is you'll go to 7/27/22. So July 27th of 2022, it came on the market and it was immediately canceled. And then it was canceled and made active the next day. Then 63 days later, it went active to active option with a contingency. Then it went active option back to active 5 days later. 2 days later, it went from active to active contingent. 4 days later, it went from active contingent to active. 16 days later, it went from active to under contract. That same contract went to pending, and it went from pending back to active. So that's like somebody that's been divorced 7 times. There's something wrong with them. Okay, you can't say it was 50-50 when you've been divorced 7 times. So I'm joking. If you have been, it's no offense. But this would be where I would text the agent and go, hey, I clicked on the history and I see that it's been under contract 7 times. You care to share it to me? Why? And if they're kind of, an a-hole about it, then that's probably going to give you an indication that there was something wrong with it. Now, right next to the clock, I could click on those 3 sheets of paper and maybe there would be some information that the agent would have left with me, like a foundation report or an HOA that's messed up. But you can see that all I have is a lead-based paint addendum and the seller's disclosure. So I could click on the seller's disclosure before I show it, and I'm hopefully looking for something that's a problem, because I don't know why it went under contract 7 times and fell out. And when I look through it, and I'm looking at this fairly quickly because I don't see anything that really sticks out, it's all yeses and nos. And so I would absolutely text the agent before I show this guy and just go, hey, I was just wondering if you could share the number of times that it's fallen back active, the reasoning. Now, it could be because it's a condo that certain financing fell through, but 7 times, I think it was about 7. That gives me a little bit of a red flag. So that's why that's there. That clock is there. And that's why those 3 sheets of paper are there to give you some attachments. If you keep going, you can see that there's not a icon for showing service. Okay. Normally there's an icon right around here where the space is for showing time or broker bay, which would make me automatically go to the very bottom and try to figure out, how do I show this property? And at the very bottom, the last section says showing information, and it will tell you how to make the appointment. And you can see there that it says that text listing agent, easy go and show. And so I probably would text this person, hey, Luna, at that number, that's the listing agent. Hey, I'm Doug Smith with DHS Realty. I'd like to show your property tonight at 6 p.m. And is it available? If she texts back, yeah, it's on a combo and the combo is 7247. I might reply back and go, hey, any reason why it's fallen back active 7 times? Just innocent little text back, okay? And just see what she comes back at, all right? You can also kind of look at the remarks section. It says stunning condo loft in the heart of downtown Dallas. It's in West End. Okay, look at the private remarks. Condo is not warrantable. Cash buyer or non-QM pre-approval required. So it's good that my buyer's a cash buyer. It just actually goes right into this. Okay, so I don't need to worry about a loan because I said in this scenario, he's a cash buyer. If he was getting a loan, this would not be an option because it says it's not warrantable. That means it's uninsurable for lending purposes. Okay.
Would that be cause for concern though?
I go ahead and look at it. And the only reason I would go ahead and look at it is because out of the 45, hypothetically, this is the only one he wanted to look at. I want to meet him in person. He's a big buyer. He's a hockey player. He's a professional. So I'm going to probably not wear my boots and jeans, but I'm not going to also look like Donald Trump. I'm going to, wear some slacks and a shirt, make sure I have a packet for him and make sure that I shake his hand. I have printed everything. I got a first impression. I'm going to have the agent report, the tax roll. I'm going to go and do a CMA of that condo complex. I'm going to print out the seller's disclosure and the lead base. I'm I'm gonna have all that in a little packet when I go meet him. Okay. But yeah, I never pass up an opportunity to meet if I can. And I would argue that would be good to go ahead and do that. Ramiro is down on the first floor. Lola, will you go?
Sure.
Watch your board. Oh, no, you're good. I believe he's down there. So, okay. So with that being said, I make the appointment and I go show it to him. And I text him the day of, and I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure we're still good for tonight at 6. And he says, yes. And so, I get there probably about 5:30. It's a condo. Those can be really confusing. And so I'm going to get there about 30 minutes early. I'm going to actually go to the front, look at the key box. I'm going to make sure my app is updated so that I'm ready to go when I meet him. Some of these condos are really awkward to get into in downtown Dallas. So that's always going to be a good idea. If you have an issue while you're down there, you also are 30 minutes early, you can text the agent. Hey, this is Doug. I talked to you earlier today. Hey, I'm out front. I don't know where the hell the key box is. I mean, and it could easily be that they didn't even tell you the instruction on how to find it. And it's like, oh, go to that third pot on the left. There's a little key. It gets you into the gate and then the key box at the front door. All right. So we show the property now on a condo. I still think it's important if the back of the patio, because it's usually pretty small, faces the west, because it's just going to be unbearable. My daughter, Julia, she's up at the Star in an apartment. And when she was in it, looking at it, the patio faced west, but it also looked down at the pool. And so it was a big square and the building across the way was equal size. And she goes, yeah, but the building will shade it. And I was like, it's not going to shade in the summer. And like right now, she's like praising my name and cussing out the sun, because when she gets home, especially in the last couple of days when it's been hot, on a Saturday and Sunday, she hasn't been able to enjoy the back. But if you look across, all the people there are on their balconies because they're shaded. And if they want sun, they go to the pool. So I think that's important. And it would be a great time to tell this person from Seattle, where they don't have any sun, how we're a little different here with the heat. Okay. So even on a condo or a townhome, anything that has a back that they're going to be outside, I would argue that you would at least want to verbalize that objection. And if they move forward, then, that's so much the more, at least you verbalized it. On this MLS sheet, it's always a good idea to know what the HOA is. $541 a month. That would blow some people out. He's not down there? Oh, hey, Romero. Good. That would blow some people out of the water on getting financing. Okay. So, but again, this is going to be a pro player. And then looks like they didn't do anything with measurements of the bedrooms. You can see there, it's got, I would make this a little better as a listing agent, put the bedrooms. They don't have the measurements. It just says 0 by 0. So it's good learning the more information you put in here, the more it's a search criteria for someone to possibly pull it. All right. So you go and show the property. And after you show it, let's just say that Philip, 2 L's and 2 P's, looks at you and says, let's make an offer. And that means that our next website after we get out of Matrix is going to be Zip Forms. Before we get out of MLS, I would probably argue it'd be a good idea to do a CMA. And I always like to just cover myself to make sure. You can see that it's called Elm Place Residences. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to, at the very top, hover over search, still go residential detailed. Right here at subdivision, Elm Place, and I'm going to go RESID with an asterisk. Okay. Elm Place residence, and then I'm going to select all, and under pending, I'm going to go 180 and closed 180. And now there's 0 matches because I have single family residence marked. So I need to go ahead and mark condo, and you'll see there's 6. Does everybody have 6? Okay. So I'm going to hit results, and I'm going to hit the checkbox above the first one. And I'm going to hit quick CMA. And because of that, it basically does a CMA for me. You can see the active homes are 249. That's the one we're looking at. It's been on the market 131 days. Ali, this is Romero, if you want to.
Romero, can you, Romero, can you?
So that's Jacqueline and Elaine. That's Romero. And this is Pat and Maria, Fernanda, and Lola.
Give
And
me that happy hour.
okay. All right. Then you see the one that's canceled. That means for some reason or another, it didn't sell. And then you go down and you see the close, which are, in my opinion, are the ones that are the most, that's the best, because that means they've funded. And so the one that we're looking at is 1,103 square feet. And you can see that first one there is 780 square feet. It's sold for 240. So I'd argue that this one is priced pretty good. Okay. I don't get in real depth into the numbers. I mean, if I showed this to any one of you and you're my buyer, I go, well, I mean, one sold for 240. It was 780 square foot. It was a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. And this one we're looking at is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, but it's 1,103. And so it's bigger and it's active for 249. It's been on the market 131 days. So are you in love with it? And if he says no, then say, I don't know, what do you want to go in at? And then I kind of just shut up and wait for him to say something. If he says, I don't know, let's try 240. I'm like, boom, let's do it. So let's just act like that's what he said. So that price range could be anything, but for tonight, because I did the 0 to 5 million, this is the one that he's decided on. Let's just say he's single because his wife left him because they lost to the Stars. So again, just to recap, I have the agent full report, the tax roll, a CMA, the seller's disclosure, the lead-based paint addendum when I meet him with my packet, shake hands, tell him about the patio facing the east, so there's going to be some shade, talk a little bit about hockey, and then say, what do you think? And he goes, boom. And that's where the next step is. Why don't you give me about an hour, 45 minutes, and I'll send you some documents. So we'd be out of the MLS, and that's where we're going to get into zip forms. And everybody in here should have their forms done. I'm looking at everybody in here, and everybody, I've done your form. You paid your board dues and everything. Oh, okay. Well, then text me and remind me tonight. I'll get your templates done by midnight. So when you pay your board dues, it usually takes a day before I can do your zip form, but I can do your MLS in 5 seconds. So just remind me, Romero, just text me and I'll you'll see what I'm about to do for you. But everybody else has their templates done. So I like to go to texasrealestate.com. Everybody's different. It doesn't matter. You just need to get the zip form. So once you get to texasrealestate.com, it looks like this. In the top right corner, you hit login, and you're going to have your own personal login and password. And once you log in, it takes you right back to that identical screen, but now in the right corner, it's going to say, hi, Romero, hi, Doug, hi, Pat. Okay. Hi, Allie, and then you'll hit zip forms and the screen turns blue. For the forms.
But why? Why is zip form so important?
You can answer it because I don't
Okay,
know.
so zip forms is important because the only way you're able to do real estate is if you use zip forms. You can't do real estate without using zip forms. That is where you go to and find any document that you're possibly going to need for your client. So if you call and you ask either Doug or myself a question, oh, well, what do I need to do if I need earnest money? Well, 9 times out of 10, you're going to need a document that you're going to find in zip forms. So zip forms is where all your paperwork comes from that you're going to use with all your clients that you work with. That's why zip forms is important.
Yeah.
And MLS is where you go find houses, rental homes, whatever. So zip forms and MLS are need to be your best friends.
Yeah, just your money makers. Yeah, exactly. If you want to use an analogy, this would be like the Collin County Library, but just a library of real estate forms. And it's just this. So if this ever went down, all the forms are on Trek site. So like today, somebody said, hey, I'm helping my friend sell their house, but they don't want to use me at all. Can I help them? And I'm like, well, if you help them, you don't have any E&O if they end up getting mad at you. So I prefer that we don't get involved with them. And he goes, oh, how can I get all the forms to them? And I'm like, they can go to Trek's website or they can call any title company Any title company will help them out, hoping that they close with them and they'll walk them through all the forms. But once we get involved, there's only 4 people we can only work with in real estate: buyer, seller, tenant, landlord. And we have all the forms pre-filled here, with a couple exceptions. So we're done with MLS. Hopefully we have the MLS printout, or we've copied the MLS number. And so now we're working with a buyer. We log into Zip Forms, and this is our screen, no matter who you are. And you are looking for this tab in the left corner. It says new. That is always going to be your first button, always. And when you click on it, 5 boxes appear, and we only care about the first 3. You are working either with a seller, which is a synonym to listing, a buyer, which is a synonym to purchase, or a tenant landlord that encompasses that 3rd box. So this guy's name is Philip, and he is a buyer. So I'm going to click the 2nd box. And when I do so, I'm going to go ahead and name it Philip with 2 L's and 2 P's. As long as the screen doesn't lock up on me. Okay, every once in a while, you'll get that. It'll say, wait. Okay, so there we go. So Philip. Now, that's me. I name it the buyer's name. Lola likes to name it the address in case this offer falls through. That way I'm working with Philip still, but now I have just not Philip 1 and Philip 2, but I have each address. So that's another option. But either way, you're going to put something there so you'll remember it when you log into MLS, when you log into Zip Forms again. After you name it, about 3 down, you're going to see category. We always mark residential. Always. Does not matter. I don't care what it is. You always mark residential. And then right here, it says select template, and you only have 3 options. So I'm going to pick buyer. Now, in the past, we were done, but what Lola has incorporated into our training is right over here on the right column. If you hit MLS Connect, you're going to have your login up here with a 0 in front of your license and your password. Right here, if you just paste the MLS number and take out the spaces in front and hit include photo and find, you're going to see the picture of the property pull up. And then you hit use listing. So now you're back at this little screen, and all you do is go to the bottom and you hit save. What it effectively is doing is pulling all the information from the MLS into your documents, coupled with what I pre-filled for you, which makes this like pretty golden. You're always going to be at this page, and it's going to have the summary tab at the top. And if you're on the phone with me, I'm going to walk you through this running down the road, and I will know every screen you're at. I'm going to say, you're looking at a white summary square at the top. Go 2 tabs to the right to documents and click on it. And when you do, you've got all your forms pre-filled. Okay. Now, when you met the buyer, you could have brought the IABS and the buyer rep. I personally don't do that. I have the IABS in my little packet with my bio and stuff. So that means that I didn't get it signed when I met him. So I am going to send him a lot of documents tonight. They're kind of in order. Okay. So I've got the IABS. I need to check mark that, or I can just click on it. If I click on it, it's going to give me 2 options to load the form. And we are always going to go with the word new, NEW. And when I click on it, it's going to open the IABS on the left, and I'm going to have 2 columns on the right stacked. The top column is going to be the form that I'm working on currently, and the bottom column are going to be all the forms that I pre-filled. So all I'm going to go is look and hit the plus sign and bring it to the top. Now, I'm not doing the 1 to 4 because this is a condo. I'm not doing the HOA addendum because it's a condo. And on a condo, all condos have an HOA, and they're all on the first page of the condo contract. So there is no addendum on a condo for HOA. So I'm going to keep scrolling. I would normally bring up the 3rd party because about 95% of people do a loan, but this scenario city is a cash buyer, so I don't need that. I'm going to keep scrolling down, and all I'm doing is looking for the condo contract. Yours is going to be a little higher up, but this is my template, so it's a little lower down. All right, so here it is. You'll see it. It says right here, it says residential condo contract. In parentheses, it says resale. I'm going to hit the plus sign. So now I have the forms that I need. So now I'm going to go over to the left and I'm going to scroll down. And for some reason it put, now this is a little awkward because I am the agent doing this scenario. I'm going to put my wife's name as an agent. She is an agent, but I'm going to put her name so it's not confusing. And you don't see my name, because the way your IABS works is the first 3 lines are identical to what you're looking at, but the last line will be your stuff. Okay. And it'll already be in there. All right. So that'll be done. You don't even have to do that. The IABS will be pre-filled. You'll scroll down to the buyer rep agreement, and the buyer rep agreement, I have it pre-filled also. But in paragraph 1, you simply need to put his name. I don't require you to put his address or anything. That's up to you. I know Lola probably does. She's very thorough. I'm fine with a name, but if you want to put his address, his phone number, his email, that's up to you. It's not a requirement with me as the broker. I just want the document done. And I want his, I mean, if Philip's going to initial it, I could care less whether I know he lives in Saskatchewan, you know,
Well,
yeah,
no,
but you do put the email. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a generic email. And I'm going to put a phone number. Okay, so I'm going to put the email and the phone number, but leave the address blank because that's his physical address where he lives. All right, you'll see that the rest is pre-filled. You go to paragraph 3. I have Dallas, Denton, and Collin counties. I pre-fill that for all the agents up in North Dallas. Of course, I'm in the host state, and you can help anybody in the host state. So if you wanted to put 254 counties in Texas, that's fine. If you wanted to add Tarrant County to this, for this particular client, that's fine. But everybody up here, I'm pretty sure I have Dallas, Denton, and Collin counties in your buyer rep agreement. And it's templated. You go to paragraph 4, and I met him tonight, so I'm going to pick today's date. And we're going to close by the end of the month because it's a cash transaction. So I'm going to pick May 26th. As I scroll through the rest of this, it's pre-filled. That's intermediary, already authorized. Don't mess with it. It protects you. Right here, I've got your commission, 3% and 50%. Don't need to mess with it. The 3% is for the buyer part, and the 50% is in case this guy, we don't get this home and he decides he wants to rent. I don't need to get a new buyer rep agreement because he was a buyer and turned into a tenant. And you could easily be working with a tenant that turns into a buyer. Well, if you've got this filled out the way I've already pre-filled it, it's just one document. It covers you on both buyer and tenant. Does that make sense? My previous broker did not like me doing that, and I templated all the forms. And he was my dad. And I was like, well, you don't see how you don't have to double document a buyer rep agreement? And I was like, haven't you ever worked with a buyer that became a tenant? Because I have, and I've worked with a tenant becomes a buyer. One document covers me on both, where I wouldn't have to get the form done again. So that's how we do it. And that's why I started my own company, because I think a little different. And there's nothing wrong with that. So everything else is pre-filled. Okay. You're done with that. Now we're at the contract. Because I copy and pasted the MLS number, what it did is it brought in the seller's name, already have my buyer's name, and it brought in the address. So we're pretty golden on the first 2 paragraphs. All right. If we go to the second half of page 1, this is addressing the HOA docs. And what I've done is I've marked the second box on each section and put 21 days. And let me just explain it so that we understand why I did it. What this is saying is that when the contract gets executed, that the seller, which is going to do it through the title company, has 21 days to order the HOA docs and deliver them to my buyer in 21 days. And then when my buyer receives them, they got 6 days to terminate for any reason. It's pre-printed in here. So it's kind of cool. Now, the fact that I put the closing at the end of the month, that's less than 21 days. So if I left it like this, the agent would probably go, hey, the closing is in 14 days. You got 21 for the HOA docs. So I'm probably going to have this be in line with the closing date. So I would physically come in here and probably change it to, 10 days. But just know that generally speaking, 21 is perfect because most of the time you are going to get a loan and the closing is going to be 30 or 40 days out. Does that make sense? All right, as I go to the second page, I've got the financing. What I did when I pre-filled your forms is I marked third-party financing because most people use that addendum. And under this scenario, it's not going to be used, so I need to physically unmark it. And then I'm going to go to the price, and he said he wanted to offer $240. And if I tab, it automatically defaults $240. Now, there are some agents, listing agents, that when they see a contract, they don't want anything blank where money goes. And you'll see there's a $ in paragraph B. So if you physically touch that tab and put 0 and tab again, you'll see that it disappeared. And that's because you have to hit it and double tap it with the space bar. So that's a little inside skinny, okay? Whenever there's a $, you click on it with your space bar, with your cursor, and you got to double tap the space bar. Now I can put a 0 in there and it will stay. Is everybody with me? Okay. Now I go down to paragraph 5, and that's the title company. For the title company, I need to go back to the listing, or if I had it printed, I'd have it right next to me as I wrote this offer. If I scroll down, what you'll see is that there is no title company referenced. So knowing that it's fallen through 7 times, I'm probably not going to text the agent and ask him if they have a preferred title company. I'm probably going to try to use Truly Title, because at least I have an in with somebody that can do some digging. You know, like, hey, this is the title company. We just got the earnest money and the option. Hey, just curious, how did that fell out 7 times? We're noticing, any idea why? And now I didn't ask it, but the title company did. They might reach out to me and let me know. And we have that kind of relationship with Truly. So that means that I'm going to go back here and I am going to put Truly Title. Now in real estate, you can use whoever you want. Truly, and I don't care, except for the fact that Truly really helps us out a lot. We use their building a lot. And so that's probably good enough. 2901 Dallas Parkway, Suite 130. You can see I already put $100 in there for the option. And if you go down to 5B Boy, I already have 10 days that we're buying. So the only dollar blank left is right before the option, and that's the earnest money. And I'd argue that probably, $2,000 is good enough. So that's the way it should look. It should look like that. Truly Title. So let's just read it. Delivery of earnest and option. Within 3 days after the effective date, buyer must deliver to Truly Title at 2909 Dallas Parkway, Suite 130, $2,000 as earnest money and $100 as the option fee. And then if you go to 5B Boy, it says that you're buying 10 days with that $100. Okay. If the buyer ever asks you about those checks, what I always like to tell them is that most likely you won't deliver a check. It'll be an app that somehow gets the $2,100 to the title company. You'll never get the $100 unless you go to closing. You'll never get that back, no matter what happens. If God strikes that house, that condo, and it burns to the ground, from no fault of the buyers, they can't close, they won't get the $100 back. So they'll only get it if they go to closing, and they'll get the $2,000 back under some scenarios if they terminate where it's in the contract. But generally speaking, if we get to closing, you're going to get a $2,100 credit, and that's good enough. Okay. All right. Down here at paragraph 6, you always put the same title company. Okay. So Truly Title. So they have to match. 5 and 6 have to match with the same title company name. I have already pre-filled that the seller's paying title. I would argue that's probably a pretty good idea under this scenario, knowing it's been falling out 7 times. I mean, I don't see anybody banging down the door to make an offer on this property. So that's why we went in a little lower. And I would argue we probably asked the seller to pay, almost everything. And that's the way we have this. If you were with me, 3 years ago, 2020, middle year to 2021, I don't remember a seller that did pay the title because there was just no homes on the market. Now I had it templated like this, so agents were physically uncheck marking it and check marking buyer expense. If you're ever asked how much a title policy costs, the easiest way to explain it is just say it's about 1% of the sales price. And if they ask what's it for, say it's the same thing as getting title on a car, except this is a house and they're going to go back to statehood and check for all the liens and make sure you have clear title. And it's about 1%. So if it's 240 grand, it'd be about 2,400. Okay. All right, right here at the top of page 3, it's already pre-filled. I'm just going to explain it because we don't have that many at training. I'm going to explain it. So we have 11 online. I don't know how many people are online, so maybe there's less because it's people here. But the reason I have in paragraph C, and it's paragraph D on a 1 to 4, it's paragraph C on a condo. But paragraph C says residential use in 3 days. And that just means that when everything comes back from the title commitment, the HOA docs, if there's something in there that says that that condo can't be used for residential use, that with all rights to terminate expired and extinguished, my buyer would still have a 3-day right to back out. Because whatever we put there has to be allowed. And if it's prohibited, then you can back out. Okay. And that's generally about the number of days that I've seen there. 3 days. It's pre-filled in yours. Paragraph 7, 7A says that you can get a home inspection done. 7B says that we have the disclosure. Well, when we looked at remember when we looked next to the clock, it had it. So that means we have it. So you don't have to mess with that. Paragraph 7D talks about it being as is. And I'd argue that you probably leave it like that almost always. The exception would be like when you walked into that condo, if the glass to the balcony had a baseball that somebody threw through it, you know that that's going to be needing to be fixed. That means you would unmark as is and you mark the second box and you put a back door with baseball that's been thrown through it needs to be replaced. Okay. But the inspector is going to find it. So why not just wait? That would be my argument. 7H is the home warranty. We know that this home was built what year? Right, without looking at anything, what do we know I've already mentioned? We mentioned lead, so that means the home is at least 40 to 50 years old, maybe more. So that means that the home warranty would be pretty essential. A home warranty runs about $700 to $1,000. I have one on my house, and last 2 weeks ago, they replaced my whole AC unit. Cost me $600. So $100 for them to knock on the door. The AC was covered except for $600 of new Freon. If I didn't have the home warranty, it probably would have been at 20 grand. So that's why we get the home warranty. The seller pays it for the first year if they accepted it the way we wrote it, and then it's up to the buyer to continue it. So yesterday, my neighbor called me. He's getting a new AC. And he was like, hey, I noticed your AC guy was there like 3 weeks ago. I was like, oh yeah, it only cost me $600. They replaced it. He's like, oh shit, I don't have a home warranty and it's going to cost 20 grand. And I'm like, he said to me, he goes, I remember I had it for the first year. Well, that's why I've always said, like, tell your buyer, like, renew it after that year's up. You can do it monthly. You can pay it all at once, but it's a lifesaver. If you never use it, that's fine. But man, you use it once, it'll pay itself forever. And it's just really a comfort. AC is blowing warm air in the summer, home warranty. Garbage disposal, somebody puts something down it, it blows. A new garage door, a new garbage disposal. That's what I meant to say, a garbage disposal. All that's going to be covered under the home warranty. And again, there's about 40 of them. We have one, Armadillo, they sponsor our firm, but you use whoever you want. I've had Nations Preferred, American Home Shield. Some of y'all probably have a different one. You know, $700 is going to be debited to the seller, and it'll be not credited to the buyer. It'll be used to buy a home warranty. And it'll be in the buyer's name. If you ever work with somebody that's a relative, child, parent, spouse, or you yourself, we have a lot of agents. Allie's one that buys properties on her own, and pretty regularly when she sends me something, if she's doing it for her and her husband, for their business plan, it'll say buyer is buyer's agent. And if it's not Allie and it's somebody that's doing it as a primary, be sure to talk to me first, because there's ways that you can use your commission to cover your closing costs, because we don't have any splits here. So you'll pay $225, but you'll use all of it to cover your closing costs, and that's not taxed, and it's a winner. So it's free advice, and then you do what you want, but I'll always reach out to me. I'll never not answer you if you ask. And then paragraph 9, all you do is click on it and it gives you the closing date. Okay. Paragraph 10, I already have it pre-filled, possession. We're not asking for anything as special provisions or any closing costs. And then you basically go down here to paragraph 22. I already have third party marked. Knowing this is not going to be a loan, I need to unmark it. just like I did in paragraph 3. And then I go down to a page and a half and I pre-filled the left side by importing the MLS number. It filled in the right side with some discrepancies. So you can see that there's some things you need to double check. And this would need to be checked out for sure. So it's got the broker name. You don't have the broker license number. For some reason, it brought my wife over here to the right side. That's not my wife's license number though. So it left the new agent's license number. So you would double check it. And when you send it to me, I always look at this page and I would just reply back and tell you how to correct it. Okay. Other than that, you're done. So if I recap from the very beginning and just say, how much did I fill in on my own? Nothing on the IABS, 2 paragraphs on the buyer rep. I get to the contract. Paragraph 1 was pre-filled. Paragraph 2 was pre-filled. The rest of this page was pre-filled. I had to put in the price. I had to put in the title company. I had to put in the title company again. I didn't touch anything here. I didn't touch anything here. I put in a close date and that's it. That's crazy. So the big thing that I found is that we do these trainings and everybody's like, oh yeah, it's super easy. But you've never gone back and like done a scenario where you met Donald Duck. And that's what I did. When I got licensed, I was like, oh yeah. I mean, all my training with my dad's company, I was like, I have Donald Duck, Daffy Duck, the Roadrunner, all as buyers. They just call me and I go through like, oh, okay, you want to look 0 to 400,000 in Frisco? I go on the MLS and I do a search. I put in my email so I'll know what it looks like when I get it, because that's what it's going to look like when the buyer gets it. So if it went to my spam, I know it's going to go to their spam. And then I always like to be called, you know, like I like people to tell me, hey, I just sent you something. I had an agent earlier say they emailed me something and I never got it. And I wouldn't know, you know, unless they communicated with me. So at this point, we're gonna send it to them. But first, we're gonna send it to me to review. So I want to go through that, and we're gonna send it, and then I'll answer any questions we have. We'll go have happy hour. So the first thing is I always like to look at it, or you can send it to Lola. I mean, Lola's completely competent as I am. I have 100% trust in either of us getting it. So first off, we need to save it, and that's going to be at the top right. And then all you do is hit this little icon, send. And it says right there, when I click it, it says you have to add some documents. So I need a check mark. Hey, I want to send these 3 documents to Doug, have him review it. So now I check marked them. I hit the little email. And I'm just going to type in my email. Again, I have a few emails. This is the one that's easiest not to forget. Douglas@dhsrealtydfw.com. I had somebody email me Douglas without the S. Well, I'm not going to get it. So it's like, I was like, no. So anyway, it's just kind of funny. In the subject line, put review or put hi dumbass. I don't care. I have a really thick skin and I like people joking with me. So if you want to put hi dumbass when you're about to send this to me, that's fine. You have to put something in the remarks section. So put hi, and then you just hit. Now you could always hit copy yourself and then hit send. And that way you have a copy and I have a copy. It's actually going to go off on my phone before you ever text me to look at it. And it'd be like last night, I was up watching the hockey game. So I just got hi dumbass here. So it came across just like that. And that just gives you an idea how quick I get it. I usually look at it before you text me to look at it. And that's just in my DNA. I'll always do that. So I've looked at it. I thumbs it up. I text you something like, looks like I wrote it. Or I'll say something like perfection. Or I'll say, hey, if you can read, if you can look back at page 10, look at the left side, I pre-filled. Every category needs to be filled on the right side. Let me know if you have any problems. Fix it, send it to me again. If you want, you can do that. Send it to me a second time. But at some point, we got a thumbs up. So now you're in here and you need to send it to your buyer. All you're going to do is hit prepare signing in the right corner. And again, we always go with new, and you'll see there's only 3 options. And the middle one has new, authentic sign. You'll hit create. And basically it takes a second to load. You're going to get an add participant tab on the right corner. When you click add participant, you're going to hit add from transaction and you're going to pick your buyer's name and hit select. Now you'll see there's an exclamation mark there. Click on it and you got to put in your buyer's email. And right down here, I like, and I think Lola will tell you that she wants you to put in the name. And then PG. Okay. So again, one more time, name here, email, signature and initial. Hit save and the exclamation mark just went away. Now, when I scroll down, you'll see the IABS does not have initial prompt. See how he's yellow right here, PG? All I got to do is go to tools and drag that initial. Go to auto date, drag it. Now, when I scroll down, everything else is going to have initial prompt. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll as a new agent and verify, but I can tell you right now that everything has an initial prompt after the IABS. Which means that we're done. And I'm going to hit in the right corner, next, and send. And now it's gone to the buyer. So I'm going to text him and go, hey, it's Doug. I just want to let you know I sent you the documents to sign. Some of them are office forms and one is the contract. Just to recap, it's $240 cash. I got a closing in 2 weeks. We talked about the $2,100. If this gets worked out, most likely I'll just have you wire the $2,100 to the title company. I'll be in touch with you for all that. So the way it'll work is you'll open your email. It'll prompt you to initial. If you'll just text me when you've initialed, then I'll know to look for it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to send it to the agent and that will start the initial offer. And then as soon as I hear back from them, you'll be the first one I'll contact. And I go, it'll be like a pickleball match or tennis match. Ball goes on the other side. We'll go back and forth at some point. Everybody's agreed. And that's when the $2,100 will be due. And that's kind of everything. Let's see what question we have. I hate that I couldn't make it. Oh, the Carla Montera's in the house. All right. Anybody have any questions? So Allie, you had a couple questions you want to in private. Okay. So is everybody comfortable? Let me just recap for 4 minutes. Okay. Matrix. Okay. Real quick. Let me do this. So I'll get you though. So there's 2 websites we've got to know. The first one is in not in any particular order, but it's Matrix, matrix.netris.net. It's this site. You've got to know that this is where you search for properties right there. That tab at the top. If you hover over it, that's for houses, that's for duplexes, triplexes, land, and leases. Do detailed on each one and you'll be golden. I've never done the residential income, but you can. If somebody says, hey, I want to look for a duplex or triplex, but that's your moneymaker is going to be this one. And leases, we do them all day long. Okay. Land all day long. But you've got to know this site, not everything, but my God, this search part at the top, it's just, that's your moneymaker. It'd be like not knowing how to change oil and you work at Jiffy Lube. I mean, it's just like, you got to know that you've got to know how to change oil if you work at Jiffy Lube. And when they tell you, hey, in order for you to change oil, you got to watch these 4-minute videos, you friggin' watch them or you're not going to be employed. Now, I'm never going to fire you. You're just not going to know what you're doing. When you work with somebody, they're going to fire you. The buyer will when you're an idiot. And this is just common sense stuff. I mean, I set it up for you. It's going to take a little bit of exercise on I send you videos. They're all over YouTube, but are under playlists. And then the other one is going to be, this one. The beautiful thing about this is that once you hit zip forms and the screen turns blue, there's only one tab you'll ever click on. And it's the new tab.